So, excuse me. So, yesterday I finally got some hands-on time with the iPhone 10R, and I absolutely love it. From a usability perspective, it feels just like the 10s, just like it. Okay? Now, about that display, here's what I have to say about the display, because so many people have been ranting on it, raving on it, bashing it, and being all like, oh, it's such and such resolution. Come here. Let me tell you a secret. I don't care! I don't care. I do not care. Basically, what you got to do is play it cool and let the specs melt away, let the experience take over. It's like when I practice yoga. I pay attention to my alignment and to my postures for obvious, safety reasons. But when you let go and you really get into it, you just breathe. It is a totally different experience than worrying about aligning yourself this way or that. It's that literally all that just melts away. And that's what I say about the iPhone 10R display. You just let everything melt away. Let the experience take over. I did some surfing. VoiceOver is just as responsive. YouTube, just as wonderful. And emojis are just as fun. In fact, one of my relatives came in to the store because they accidentally had their phone turned off, and it was the ample time to show them the iPhone 10R. When I showed them what the Animoji could do, the fact that you could be all like, and just making a complete fool of yourself just for fun. She just laughed. She loved it. In fact, when she saw the iPhone 10R, she also wants one. Lightning fast, wonderful speakers, the wide stereo effect, it's just absolutely fantastic. Love it. In terms of the feel, it's very solid. Now, it does feel a little bit thicker. If you're coming from a plus-sized iPhone, the 8 Plus, you will notice that the 10R feels a little bit thicker. Now, in my opinion, that's actually a good thing. Not only does it allow for better battery life, but it also allows for an easier grip. Okay? So I think that thicker is better. It feels very substantial, like a very, very premium product. The colors look amazing in person. The one you're seeing in the photo here is the product red. For those of you who cannot see and may not be familiar with product red, although I'm sure some of you are, but then again, some maybe not, so I'm not going to take any chances. Product red is basically sort of a blood red. And what happens is when you buy a product red item, and Apple is actually the best known company for this, but there are other companies that participate in the program. Starbucks, I believe, is one. You buy a product red item, and that goes to help to fight AIDS research, to help fund AIDS research, the fight against AIDS in Africa. Okay? So it's definitely a worthwhile cause, and if this particular shade of red is something that strikes your fancy, I would definitely recommend it. I also saw the white one. In fact, the white one is the one that I spent the most time using. And of the two, I personally preferred the white, but My relative is thinking about getting the white, and I've honestly gone back to the blue. You'll see that in just a moment. Now, here's a question for voiceover users, fellow voiceover users, I should say, because I do know I have some here in the comments below. So let me know about a couple of things, okay? So first of all, my question is, has the voiceover speech default switched over to a voice named Eric? I ask this because on both of the 10R display units and on an iPhone 8 Plus, all of the voices, the default voice was set to Eric. That was on iOS 12.1. All of these devices I checked, they were running 12.1, whereas an iPhone XS on version 12.0 still had Samantha as the default voice. Something else, too, I noticed was a bit of an Easter egg. If you tap the upper left or upper right corner of the screen to get into the status bar, where it'll announce either the time or the signal, Wi-Fi, and battery status, you still get the option for a 3-finger swipe down to get to your notifications and a 3-finger swipe up to get to the control center. So you don't necessarily have to do the swipe down and hold until you feel, such and such a vibration. And I didn't even realize that. So it's really nice to have the flexibility in there. Speaking of those swipe down and swipe up gestures, it seems that in iOS 12.1 the gesture hints have disappeared. In other words, I go ahead and I leave my finger in the home position, but it never does say lift for home. So if you're upgrading to iOS 12.1, just keep that in mind. Now what's interesting is I think it's also hardware dependent because it's not, it wasn't present on the iPhone XR, but it was present on an iPad Pro, a 9.7-inch iPad Pro, which was kind of odd. And yes, the speaking hints were turned on, so I don't know what that was all about. Now, for those of you who have not seen it, go back to my video, A Day with Electronic Fruit. That video gives you an overall impression of my experience with the iPhone X. This was before the XS and the XR came out, but the user experience is still the same. So I'm not going to rehash that here. But in that video, I noted that in iOS 11, they had a little bit of a Easter egg, sort of a quirk. VoiceOver would say home button to the right, home button to the left in landscape mode, even though there was no home button. Well, it turns out they've managed to fix that, and they fixed that in a way that I think is just awesome. Instead of home button, you rotate your device to landscape and it'll say charge port to the right, charge port to the left. And that is honestly the best orientation I could think of because on the iPhone XR, the Lightning port is the only port there is. So definitely, I could not have fixed that better myself. So Safari and Landscape on the iPhone XR, because it is a plus-size display, feels like a compacted full desktop experience. So if you go to the desktop, if you go onto your YouTube on your Mac, if you don't have a Plus Series iPhone and you want to know what that's like, go to YouTube on your Mac and think about that kind of desktop experience on a 6.1-inch Liquid Retina display. Now, I have a Google Pixel XL first generation. The iPhone XR will be replacing this. In terms of hardware, compared to the iPhone XR, to the Pixel XL, the XR is just a tad shorter and narrower by 1/4 to 1/2 inch. But it's got the 6.1-inch screen versus the 5.5-inch screen. And the phone can still play HD video. It plays it at 720, but I'm going to be honest, on that small a screen, I can't tell the difference between 720 and 1080p. And as long as the videos play and appear to look smooth, that's all I care about. Okay, I'm not one of those pixel peepers. I think that's silly. And to be honest, if you are, that's actually the way I look at it. Is that might not be good for your eyes. In my book, that could add additional strain. So the overall conclusion, again, if you want my initial first impressions, you'll have to go back to my video, A Day with Electronic Fruit, So put that video together with this one, and you will see the full experience. But in short, the 10R is the 10S. Okay, it is the 10S. The build quality may be different. The screen may be lower resolution. Again, who cares? Just let the experience, take over. Let the specs melt away. And that secondary camera, I don't know. I honestly don't see a use for it. I've never had a secondary camera, and I don't feel like I need one. So, and for $250 less, and for a better battery, duh! I mean, that, to me, it feels like a no-brainer. Now, it is essentially now the holiday season. We've got Thanksgiving coming up in a couple of weeks, and then after that will be Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, and all those fun holidays. So I figured I'd go ahead and share with you this year's wish list, because I basically already finalized it. If my need for a phone wasn't so major at this moment, I'd probably still be working on my wish list. But because I already know, especially after having hands-on time with the 10R, that I definitely want one, I've pretty much secured the list. So, we've got the iPhone 10R. Now again, I talked about the colors, that I was looking at blue, and one of my relatives was looking at white. So, I've actually got a list of colors. Now, why is that? Because the holiday season's always crowded. You never know what sort of experience you're going to get in the stores. And the last time that I actually went to pick this up was for my birthday, and the thing was so popular that they didn't even have them in stock. So I ended up getting it a few days late. So, I've actually, like I said, I've got a list of colors, and they are in the following order. Blue. If that's not available, then yellow. If that's not available, then coral. Now, originally I said I wasn't going to do the coral, but the coral, actually kind of rubbed off on me, so I wouldn't mind having that. And then finally, white. Now, I did see the product red in person. Like I said, it was a bit too dark for me, and I definitely don't want to go with the black, if I can help it. So, the reason white is the very last is because, again, one of my relatives wants the white, and I don't want us to get the same color, because otherwise it'll be more difficult, especially if we end up with the same case, to tell the phones apart. 128 or 64 gigs. So, in essence, I've got eight different configurations, 4 colors, 2 capacities. So, in that instance, I should definitely, hopefully, get at least something. My preferred combination is the blue in the 128 gigabyte capacity. So, the other things that I have on my list are, obviously for this phone, you need a case. I'm personally looking at going with the OtterBox View. It provides good protection and, from what I could tell, good grip, and at the same time allows the color of the phone to be displayed proudly. Because if you're going to get an iPhone XR and it's in the colors, you want it to be shown off, right? There's no point in getting these colors, unless of course you end up with white or black, that and not show them off, you know? So there's that. If the view case is not available, then I'm looking at getting the if the view case is not available, then I'm looking at getting the Statement series. And the Statement series is an interesting combination of plastic and this bottom quarter section. For those of you who cannot see, the back of the screen, the back of the case is sort of a clear plastic, so the color shines through. But then about 3/4 of the way down the case back is a completely different material altogether. And you can either have felt or leather, and I'm personally looking at going for the felt. I just think that would be really cool. Now, again, this is primarily to secure availability, but I've picked at least 2 cases. Either one of those I would be perfectly happy with. So this is the only thing that I'm genuinely not sure about. The iPhone XR does support wireless charging. The problem is I don't know much about wireless chargers. I don't know what makes a good charger, what makes a mediocre charger. What would give me good years of service. So anybody in the comments down below, if you have a wireless charger and you could recommend something, please let me know. And keep in mind that I put 2 of these on my list because I want to keep one in 2 different parts of the house. So, yeah, so there's that. And then finally, thanks to the generosity of one particular family member, I have been able to put an Apple Watch on my wish list this year. Now, whether or not I will get this, I don't know because they want it to be a surprise. They want to surprise me. But my preferred Apple Watch would be the 40mm Series 4 with the white seashell sport loop. And I've already talked at length about the Apple Watch, so I'm not going to rehash in this video, but it would just be nice to be able to keep my phone on the charger and watch some TV or have a snack while at the same time still being connected. And again, as I've said before many times, all the safety benefits, the health benefits, definitely worth it in my opinion. So that's basically my hands-on time with the iPhone XR and my wish list for this year. And like I said before, with the iPhone XR, don't even hesitate. Go ahead and buy one. You won't be disappointed. But what do you guys think? And again, like I said, if anybody has any input on the wireless chargers, please feel free to comment down below because I could use some help. Thank you for watching. Comments are welcome and have a nice day.